Every 20th June 2025, we celebrate World Refugee Day, and we honor the strength of millions of people who are forced to flee conflict and persecution. Now, as of April 2025, we have over 42.7 million people displaced worldwide. And of course, Malaysia, although it is not signatory to the 1951 Refugee Convention, does also have refugees living in Malaysia. Today we have Ms. Louise Obang, representative of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees of the UNHCR in Malaysia, and we want to ask her this one question. Now, how do you feel ASEAN, or Malaysia in its chairmanship of ASEAN, and regional actors can step up better in responding to the protracted disasters and global dynamics that we see today, especially with the migration pressures that are happening?
The focus that Malaysia has brought to Myanmar has been incredibly powerful. So as chair of ASEAN, bringing focus back to a critical conflict that has been going on in surges, but for decades, was so important given the competition, if I can say so, with so many conflicts around the world that are seemingly endless. So for Malaysia, the importance of tackling the issues, the root causes of forced population displacement in Myanmar is obviously critical, and it is shared and should be shared more across the region. Now, let's not forget that all refugees fleeing Myanmar do so because they're compelled to do so. They're trying to extract themselves from harm's way. Most of them go next door, which is normal. Geography made it such that Bangladesh is hosting more than 1 million Myanmar refugees as we speak. In Malaysia, we are also hosting refugees. Why? Because there's a tradition of humanity in Malaysia that is very strong. But importantly, this should be a model for the whole region. By definition, refugees are an international concern. Why? Yes. Because they cross borders. They need protection elsewhere. Being able to adjust the levels of support, of protection, and protection against forced return across the region would be a very enabling conversation that Malaysia, in its leadership, can also bring forward. Ratifying the 1951 Convention is certainly one route. Another, or complementary one, is to have the necessary legal framework in Malaysia that recognizes the status of refugees, their protected status, and the rights that flow from this. During such time as refugees need to be protected in Malaysia. Let's not forget, most refugees, if not all refugees, have one desire. They're wanting to go back home. Yes. They need to go back home peacefully. And that's another aspect that Malaysia is drawing attention to. Violence has to stop in Myanmar for there to be a beginning of peace. And that is certainly a very loud and clear message from civil society through to governments through this year in ASEAN.
Thank you for that. And I strongly believe that violence should stop everywhere. and the very fact that we've seen many countries who are perhaps not signatory to the convention, but still doing many things on humanitarian grounds, speaks volume over the fact that ratification of a convention is one thing, but actually doing something that matters on the ground is another. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Hi there, I'm NADIAH ABDELLATIF. In conjunction with World Refugee Day that happens on the 20th of June 2025, I'm speaking with HEBA ABDULLATIF, the Chief Mission of the International Organization of Migration, or the IOM, in Malaysia. Now, a lot of people don't know the good work that IOM does and how this is crucial in ensuring not only the asylum seekers and the refugees that we have all across the world find a place to settle and build their lives and thrive. So I have this one question to ask you, Ms. HEBA. Thank you so much for joining us today in the studios. Now, I think in the last few months, we've seen protracted, prolonged, and really complex relationship dynamics between countries. Earlier, Louise was talking about the fact that violence in any form shouldn't be acceptable. But in this absence of peace, and we're seeing this more and more, how can displaced people still lead a life with dignity, and what would a sustainable solution for this look like?
To achieve a sustainable solution, we have to look at the real problems of the vulnerable migrants and refugees at this point. We have to solve their needs, whether their health needs, whether their education, their skills, and so on. So we really have to address immediately what can make them and continue to be viable citizens in their own country because, as Louise had mentioned, they do want to go back, or continue, or as long as they need to stay in the host community, and how can they be beneficial to the host community without addressing these needs. So this has to be the immediate one. There are long-term solutions, of course. There is resettlement, which IOM supports, especially when it comes to medical. We have the health assessments, and we provide medical care before they depart for resettlement. There is legal pathways, which is a new programming now that we're working on, trying to provide skills training to refugees to prepare them for legal pathways to other countries. And these are things that will continue to move forward and can provide long-term solutions. And of course, and I continue to say that, is looking at the benefits of them being in the host communities. How can they benefit the host communities from a socioeconomic perspective, and from a cultural perspective, while they are while they're living in different countries. So this is it.
And I want to thank you very much for a lot of the work that IOM does, which perhaps the majority of us don't know because we don't necessarily interface with an organization like IOM unless there is a need to. I speak on behalf of people that I know personally who've benefited from the work that IOM has done. So thank you so much for everything that you've done. And hopefully we'll be able to do more together to be able to assist the many that are displaced, to be able to rebuild their lives in a better way.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.